Have you ever wondered what spirits could teach us about our pain, our choices, and the paths we follow each day? What if I told you that some messages from beyond not only speak of comfort, but also offer profound lessons that can change the way you view life today? Stay with me until the end, because what you'll discover now may surprise and touch your soul in ways you might not even imagine. For decades, Chico Xavier brought to light psychographed messages from enlightened spirits. And among them, one of the most well-known and respected is Emmanuel. Recognized for his wisdom and kindness, Emmanuel guided countless afflicted hearts, transmitting teachings that span generations and remain incredibly relevant. His messages were not just words on paper. They were reflections on love, forgiveness, overcoming obstacles, and the essence of the human soul, capable of offering comfort and at the same time an invitation to inner transformation. And that is precisely what we will explore today. True Stories, Psychographed by Emmanuel, that show us how the spiritual world connects with our everyday reality, directly touching our experiences and emotions. Have you ever felt lost when faced with a seemingly impossible decision? Or felt an emptiness that seemed inexplicable, a feeling that something greater was trying to communicate with you? Emmanuel's messages often emerge precisely at these moments. It's offering not ready-made answers, but a light that allows us to see with greater clarity, courage, and serenity. And that's what makes these stories so powerful. They're not just spiritual tales. They're reflections of what we all face in our daily lives, our doubts, our fears, and, above all, our opportunities for growth. In this video, we'll share 7 of these psychographed true stories, each packed with profound lessons that apply directly to modern life. Prepare to be moved, and who knows, perhaps see your own journey from a new perspective. What makes these stories even more fascinating is that, although they were transmitted by Emmanuel decades ago, their lessons remain surprisingly relevant, showing that spirituality is not just a distant belief, but a practical guide that can illuminate our choices and strengthen our souls. Throughout this narrative, you'll encounter situations that seem commonplace but conceal profound messages about compassion, forgiveness, humility, and resilience. You'll feel Emmanuel's gentleness and firmness in each story, a combination that teaches us that spirituality isn't just about comfort, but also about action, reflection, and continuous learning. Stay with me until the end, because every detail of these stories is designed to touch something within you, awaken feelings that may have been dormant, and open space for new reflections on your own life and choices. What you're about to discover isn't just about the past or Chico Xavier's mediumship. It's about how these messages, written by Emmanuel, can influence your life today, bringing comfort in difficult times, inspiring change, and offering a broader vision of the meaning of existence. And even if you've never been deeply interested in the spiritual world, these stories have the power to speak directly to the heart, because deep down, they're about what we all seek: meaning, love, and understanding. As we prepare to delve into the 7 stories that promise to touch your soul, think about the experiences you've lived, the doubts you've harbored, and the challenges you've faced. Often, it's precisely in these points of fragility that Emmanuel's messages resonate, showing us that we are not alone, and that every difficulty can be transformed into learning and growth. And now, as we begin to explore the first of these stories, you'll notice how every detail has been carefully bringing not only emotion, but also profound reflection on the life we lead and the legacy we want to leave. Have you ever felt that? At some point in your life, you needed guidance that went far beyond what books or human advice could offer. Perhaps you found yourself facing difficult choices, painful situations, or unexpected losses, and at that moment, you felt that something greater could guide you, but you didn't know exactly how. Stay with me until the end, because what you'll discover now may deeply touch your soul and bring reflections that apply to your own life. Today, we'll delve into True Stories Psychographed by Emmanuel, Chico Xavier's spirit partner, whose messages have endured for decades without losing relevance. What makes these stories so special is that each one carries a lesson that transcends time and space, showing that the challenges we face today have been experienced by others in different ways, but with the same essential lessons about love, forgiveness, and courage. And you'll realize that, despite being spiritual accounts, these experiences connect directly with the dilemmas of the modern world, making us reflect on our own decisions and attitudes. Imagine the first story. A young woman named Clara, faced with a seemingly impossible choice. She had dedicated years of her life to an unfulfilling job, but leaving it would mean facing criticism and disappointment from those she loved. Emmanuel, through psychography, conveyed a message about courage, self-knowledge, and the importance of listening to one's soul before giving in to external expectations. Have you ever felt like this person faced with an impossible choice? Clara's story reminds us that following one's inner voice isn't always easy, but it's essential to finding true peace and fulfillment. Next, we meet Antonio, a man marked by loss and disappointment, who carried resentments that prevented him from living fully. Emmanuel's words, psychographed by Chico Xavier, reveal the power of forgiveness and the lightness it brings when we allow our hearts to free themselves from the past. Have you ever experienced something that seemed impossible to forgive? Antonio's story not only touches our emotions, but also teaches us that forgiveness is an act of courage and self-love, capable of transforming relationships and healing deep wounds. The third story introduces us to Julia, a woman who faced loneliness after losing loved ones and feeling disconnected from life. Emmanuel's message brought her comfort and hope, showing that spirituality is a refuge and a constant guide, even in the darkest moments. Stay with me, because often we ourselves can feel this loneliness, and these words remind us that we are never truly alone. Every act of kindness, every choice of empathy, even in the face of pain, can open doors to a brighter future. The fourth story tells of Ricardo, a young man who struggled with the fear of failure and anxiety about life's expectations. Emmanuel, psychographed by Chico Xavier, guided him to see each challenge as an opportunity for growth and learning. And you, how many times have you allowed yourself to be paralyzed by the fear of making mistakes? Ricardo's story shows us that true progress comes from the courage to move forward, even when the path seems uncertain. And that faith in oneself, combined with spirituality, can transform obstacles into opportunities for evolution. As we explore these first four stories, you begin to notice a pattern. Each account, though unique, carries universal messages that speak directly to our hearts. Love, courage, forgiveness, and resilience are not just abstract concepts. They are practical guides for living better, making more conscious decisions, and understanding that every experience, even painful ones, has a purpose. And it is precisely this connection that prepares us to continue, because there are three more stories that promise to touch your soul even more intensely, revealing lessons you may never have imagined. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to receive a message directly from the spiritual world? One that could touch your heart and illuminate seemingly impossible choices? What if these words came from a spirit as wise and serene as Emmanuel, Chico Xavier's partner, renowned for imparting profound teachings that span decades and remain surprisingly relevant? Stay with me until the end, because what you'll discover now could transform the way you view your own experiences and bring reflections on love, forgiveness, and courage that are valuable for anyone's life. Today we'll explore four true stories written by Emmanuel, each packed with practical and profound lessons. These stories, though originating in the spiritual world, reflect very human dilemmas, showing that the pain, fears, and challenges we face are not unique to our time, but rather experiences that span generations, always bringing opportunities for growth and self-discovery. Imagine yourself facing these situations, feeling every emotion, every decision, as if you were living the story alongside the characters. The first story introduces us to Clara, a young woman facing a dilemma between pursuing a secure but unfulfilling job or taking a chance on something her heart truly desired. Emmanuel, through psychography, conveyed words of courage and self-knowledge, reminding us that listening to our own soul is an essential step toward achieving true happiness. Have you ever felt like this person faced with an impossible choice? Clara's story shows us that sometimes we need the courage to break free from external expectations to find peace and purpose. Next, we meet Antonio, a man marked by loss and resentment that prevented him from living fully. Emmanuel's psychographed messages reveal the transformative power of forgiveness, showing that releasing hurts doesn't mean forgetting, but rather allowing the soul to find lightness and freedom. Have you ever experienced something that seemed impossible to forgive? Antonio's journey reminds us that forgiveness is an act of courage and self-love, capable of healing deep wounds and restoring relationships, whether with others or with oneself. The third story involves Julia, a woman experiencing loneliness after losing loved ones and feeling disconnected from life. Emmanuel offered solace, emphasizing that spirituality acts as a refuge and guide in times of grief. It's offering comfort and perspective. Stay with me, because perhaps you too have felt this loneliness. And these words remind us that even in the darkest moments, there is an invisible presence, care, and guidance capable of leading us to new opportunities for love and connection. Finally, we meet Ricardo, a young man who struggled with fear and anxiety about life's expectations. Feeling unable to live up to what he believed was expected of him, Emmanuel's messages encouraged him to see each challenge as a learning experience, reinforcing that the courage to move forward, even in the face of the unknown, is what allows us to evolve. And you, how many times have you felt paralyzed by the fear of failure? Ricardo's story reminds us that faith, determination, and listening to one's intuition are essential tools for transforming obstacles into growth and personal fulfillment. As we explore these 4 stories, it's impossible not to notice the connection between them. They all invite us to reflect on choices, forgiveness, courage, and hope, demonstrating that Emmanuel's teachings remain profoundly relevant. Each experience described brings us closer to understanding that the challenges we face today can be faced with greater serenity and wisdom when we pay attention to the messages Spirit sends us. And as we prepare to delve into the next stories, you'll realize that there are still incredible lessons in store, ready to touch your soul even more deeply, revealing aspects of life you may never have imagined. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to feel, tensely and directly, the presence of a message from the spiritual world capable of touching your soul and transforming the way you view life? What if these words came from Emmanuel, Chico Xavier's spirit partner, whose wisdom spans decades, offering profound teachings on love, forgiveness, overcoming obstacles, and purpose? Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover may stir your emotions and bring reflections that apply directly to your life. We now come to the final 3 stories, those that carry the emotional climax and reveal Emmanuel's teachings most intensely. These are true psychographed accounts that speak directly to our everyday experiences, reminding us that the lessons of the Spirit are not just distant words, but guides for facing challenges, making difficult decisions, and better understanding the meaning of our journey. Each story is an opportunity to see patterns that repeat themselves in our own lives, and to realize how simple actions can generate profound changes. The 5th story introduces us to Helena, a woman who lived in silent suffering, carrying guilt and regrets that prevented her from moving forward. Emmanuel, through psychography, conveyed a message about the importance of self-acceptance and self-compassion. Have you ever been there, feeling that past mistakes weigh too heavily on you to move forward? Helena learned that acknowledging our flaws and allowing ourselves to start over isn't weakness, but courage, and that every act of kindness toward ourselves directly reflects how we relate to the world. It's a reminder that caring for our own soul is essential to living fully. Next, we meet Raphael, a man facing family conflicts and constantly torn between duties and personal desires. Emmanuel's words showed him that harmony and peace don't come from imposition, but from understanding and empathy. Have you ever felt like you had to choose between pleasing others or following your own truth? Raphael's story teaches us that it's possible to balance responsibility and authenticity by applying spiritual lessons to your daily life. Listen more, judge less, and act with love in every decision. even when external pressure seems overwhelming. Finally, we meet Sophia, a young woman who harbored fear and insecurity in the face of challenges that seemed beyond her capabilities. Emmanuel conveyed a message of confidence and resilience, reinforcing that every obstacle is an opportunity for growth in that faith, combined with conscious action, can transform difficulties into learning experiences. How many times have you felt paralyzed by the fear of failure? Sophia's story shows us that courage isn't the absence of fear, but the decision to keep moving forward even when everything seems uncertain, and that applying this philosophy to everyday life can bring real and lasting changes. As we observe these last three stories, a recurring pattern becomes evident. Emmanuel constantly reminds us of the importance of courage, forgiveness, love, and empathy, showing that every experience, no matter how challenging, holds a lesson for our spiritual and emotional evolution. These messages, even psychographed decades ago, remain incredibly relevant, inviting us to reflect on our own choices, attitudes, and relationships. Stay with me, because we'll explore how all these stories connect and reveal insights that can profoundly impact how you view your own life, leaving room for discoveries that go beyond what we imagine about spirituality and purpose. Have you ever stopped to reflect on how some messages can transcend time and still speak directly to our hearts? What you're about to discover may seem distant at first glance, but as we delve into these stories psychographed by Emmanuel, Chico Xavier's partner, it becomes clear that his teachings remain incredibly relevant and deeply connected to the challenges of the modern world. Stay with me until the end, because these reflections aren't just about the past, but about how we can apply these lessons to our daily lives, transforming attitudes, choices, and relationships. Throughout the video, we explore true stories that reveal universal human dilemmas, difficult choices, seemingly insurmountable fears, emotional pain, and opportunities for growth that often go unnoticed. Each of these psychographed narratives carries subtle messages of courage, forgiveness, love, and empathy, showing that, although the events are distinct, the lessons are repeated, as if they were invisible threads connecting our experiences to the lessons of the Spirit. Have you ever been in situations where you felt you needed a guide, someone who could see beyond the surface and help you interpret the meaning of each challenge? These stories fulfill exactly that role, bringing clarity and inspiration to those who allow themselves to listen. What makes these messages so impactful is the sensitivity with which Emmanuel conveyed them. Always guided by the intention of illuminating paths and strengthening faith. Revisiting each story, we realize that the conflicts faced by the characters reflect dilemmas we all know: the difficulty of forgiving, the fear of taking risks, the feeling of loneliness or powerlessness in the face of complex choices. And, at the same time, Emmanuel offers us subtle and powerful solutions, which involve internal reflection, the courage to act, and a connection with the divine, reinforcing the idea that spirituality is a practical and present force in our lives. Chico Xavier, by psychographing these messages, not only gave voice to Emmanuel but also created a bridge between the spiritual world and our daily lives, demonstrating that the wisdom of the Spirit is not limited to ancient texts but manifests itself practically in our decisions and relationships. And can you, upon hearing these stories, identify similar situations in your own life? It is precisely this invitation to introspection that makes these experiences so relevant today, because they teach us to apply spiritual concepts in concrete ways, improving the way we relate to ourselves and others. As we reflect on these narratives, we realize that Emmanuel's teachings serve as compasses for our personal and spiritual evolution. They remind us that every challenge is also an opportunity for growth, that love and compassion can transform realities, and that connecting with spirituality offers strength even in the most difficult moments. And, most importantly, these stories invite us to ask essential questions about our own lives. Are we truly listening to our intuition? Are we practicing forgiveness? Are we seeking to act with empathy and courage in every decision? These messages are more than just tales of the past. They offer us a guide to living with greater awareness, faith, and purpose. And as we prepare to delve even deeper into these lessons, it's impossible not to feel that each word, Psychographed by Emmanuel, under the guidance of Chico Xavier, carries a unique authority and wisdom, capable of touching hearts and inspiring real change. Stay with me, because what follows will further connect these stories to your own journey, revealing lessons that can profoundly impact how you approach life, love, and your daily choices. And as we reflect on these stories and feel the depth of Emmanuel's messages, it's natural that some of them will trigger memories, emotions, or personal insights. If this topic resonates with you, leave a comment below with what touched you most or what experience from your own life resonates with these lessons. Sharing your thoughts is not only a way to express your feelings, but it also helps others who may be going through similar situations feel welcomed and understood. Each comment creates a small network of connections, where each story, each emotion, and each reflection intertwine, forming a community that grows with empathy and mutual learning. And if, while listening to these stories, you feel that they truly resonate with you, be sure to like the video. This simple gesture helps the content reach more people who need these messages, while allowing Emmanuel's light and wisdom to continue touching lives. Your active participation is not only a recognition of the work of bringing these stories to you, but also a way to multiply the reach of these words that have such power to transform, console, and inspire. And if you want to continue following reflections, true stories, and spiritual teachings that can bring clarity and comfort to your daily life, subscribe to the channel. It is here, in this community, that we are able to keep the connection between the spiritual world and everyday life alive, bringing content that speaks directly to the hearts of those seeking understanding, learning, and evolution. Your presence, your opinion, and your engagement make all the difference, as these gestures keep this channel active and able to reach more and more people with messages that truly matter. Stay with me, because there are still many revelations and reflections in store. In each story we share next will further deepen this connection with Emmanuel's lessons, showing how spirituality can guide choices, illuminate paths, and strengthen the soul in ways you may never have imagined. Have you ever stopped to think that? Perhaps there's something greater watching us, silently guiding us, even in moments when we believe we're alone. Perhaps you've felt that strange sensation that certain experiences or encounters aren't just coincidences, but subtle signs that a hidden truth is waiting to be revealed. What if I told you that these messages can come from a place far beyond what we see, that they directly touch our essence and help us better understand our choices, our pain, and even the impact of our decisions on life's journey? This is precisely the kind of revelation we find in the story Psychographed by Emmanuel, a spirit of great wisdom who worked side by side with Chico Xavier and left a legacy that spans generations. Stay with me, because what you're about to discover isn't just stories from the past, but how each of these teachings connects profoundly with the present, with your mindset, your choices, and the way you perceive life. Emmanuel always had a very unique way of speaking to people through psychographed messages. His approach was not only spiritual, but also deeply human, full of nuances that help us see the world more clearly. When reading or listening to these messages, you realize that he spoke about love, forgiveness, courage, and resilience in a practical way, almost as if he were showing us behind the scenes of life and inviting us to reflect on each step we take. It's remarkable to note that even though these stories were written decades ago, they remain extremely relevant today because they address universal dilemmas, ones we all face at some point: fears, difficult choices, losses, regrets, and opportunities for transformation. And believe me, what you'll discover here can open a new perspective on how to deal with these challenges. Think, for example, about what you've been silently carrying, decisions you didn't make, words left unsaid, resentments that have weighed you down for years. Emmanuel, through psychography, always reminds us that we don't have to carry everything alone, that every obstacle, no matter how complex it may seem, is an opportunity for growth and evolution. By reflecting on your stories, you begin to notice patterns of behavior, repeated choices, cycles that manifest themselves in different ways in our lives. And this gives us a unique opportunity to rewrite our own trajectory, to act more consciously, and to align our decisions with what truly matters, without getting lost in the noise of everyday life or external expectations. Now, Now, I want to delve even deeper into this topic and invite you to imagine with me. What would it be like if we could hear directly from Emmanuel, not just as a psychographed spirit, but as a silent presence guiding our most important decisions? Think of each story as a window, not just into the past, but into the paths we can still take. Each account carries a powerful message of transformation, showing that, even in the most difficult situations, there is always an opportunity to see beyond the immediate, to perceive the real impact of our choices, and to understand how spirituality, when applied practically, can change our perception of the world and ourselves. These stories also challenge us to question our own mindset. How often do we allow ourselves to be limited by invisible fears, silent doubts, or the feeling that we're trapped in cycles we can't break? Emmanuel teaches us that the first step to any change is awareness, realizing what needs to be transformed, understanding the consequences of our actions, and having the courage to act, even when the path seems uncertain. It's about looking within, recognizing our limitations and strengths, and realizing that every small gesture of courage, empathy, or reflection has a profound effect, not only on our own lives, but on the lives of those around us. And as you absorb these insights, it's impossible not to feel the weight and beauty of the journey each person in the stories experienced. Every detail, every emotion, every choice described in the psychographed messages reveals how human experiences are complex, delicate, and intertwined with spiritual lessons we can apply today. It's a rare combination of emotion, learning, and connection that allows us to see life with new eyes, more attentive, more aware, and better able to understand what truly matters. As you reflect on all this, you might realize that these stories aren't just spiritual tales. They're invitations to look at your own life, to question your choices, and to realize that there's always an opportunity for transformation, even when everything seems lost or confusing. And it's precisely this perspective that helps us understand that Emmanuel's spirituality isn't distant or abstract, but extremely practical, offering clear paths to dealing with fears, internal conflicts, and everyday dilemmas, strengthening our decision-making capacity and illuminating the nuances of our personal journey. With all this in mind, I invite you to write in the comments a word or phrase that sums up what you're feeling right now, or that symbolizes the impact these stories are having on you. Comment, "I'm on this journey too." Have you ever wondered how some experiences that seem simple at first glance hold lessons that can profoundly transform our outlook on life? Often, in the most ordinary of days, we encounter situations that challenge us, leave us insecure, or force us to make seemingly impossible decisions. What if I told you that these choices, however complicated they may seem, have echoes in much larger stories, tales that span time and connect us with hidden truths about our own existence? This is precisely what we'll explore now, delving into the first 4 stories psychographed by Emmanuel, Chico Xavier's partner, which not only move us, but also offer profound reflections on courage, forgiveness, and personal transformation. Stay with me, because every detail of these narratives has been carefully recorded, demonstrating that spirituality can be a practical guide, offering clarity and perspective even in life's most challenging moments. The first story introduces us to Clara, a young woman who felt trapped between the comfort of a predictable life and her heart's calling for something different. She lived in a stable but passionless job, feeling that each day was a monotonous repetition that drained her energy and extinguished her dreams. Emmanuel, through the messages psychographed by Chico Xavier, encouraged her to look within herself, question her priorities, have the courage to make choices that reflected her essence. Have you ever felt like this person faced with an impossible choice? It is precisely at this point that Clara's story becomes powerful, because it teaches us that listening to our intuition is not only an act of courage, but a way to honor our own journey, to transform routine into purpose, and to find meaning even in moments of doubt. Next, we meet Antonio, a man marked by loss and resentment that prevented him from moving forward with ease. He carried a silent pain, memories that seemed to cling to the present and impede any attempt at complete happiness. Emmanuel's messages reached him with subtlety and firmness, showing that forgiveness, even if difficult, is not a favor to others, but a liberation for oneself. And you, have you ever experienced something that seemed impossible to forgive? Reflecting on Antonio's journey, we realize that forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting or accepting injustices, but recognizing the importance of freeing ourselves from the emotional ties that bind us, allowing life to follow its course more lightly and consciously. The third story introduces us to Julia, a woman who faced loneliness after the loss of loved ones and felt disconnected from everything around her. The emptiness she carried felt overwhelming, and she often wondered if she would ever find meaning again. Emmanuel conveyed messages of hope, showing that spirituality acts as a constant presence, even when we cannot clearly perceive it. Stay with me, because perhaps you too have felt this sense of isolation. And Julia's experience reminds us that life offers subtle signs of care and attention, that small actions, kind words, and conscious decisions can build bridges to reconnect us with the world and with ourselves. Finally, the fourth story is about Ricardo, a young man who felt constantly pressured by external expectations and the fear of failure. Every decision felt like a risk. Every step could lead to an irreversible error. And this anxiety robbed him of his ability to act with confidence. Emmanuel, through the words Psychographed by Chico Xavier, brought him the perspective that every challenge is an opportunity for learning and growth. And you, how many times have you felt paralyzed by the fear of making a mistake? Ricardo's story shows us that courage is not the absence of fear, but the ability to act despite it, recognizing that life is a series of experiences that together shape our minds, our choices, and our ability to face the unexpected with resilience and wisdom. Now I want to delve even deeper into this topic, because by observing these four stories, we notice a recurring pattern. Each character faces universal dilemmas that directly reflect our own journey. The choices we make, the forgiveness we grant, the courage we exercise, and even moments of solitude carry an energy that can be transformative when we look at them with attention and awareness. Emmanuel not only presents us with the challenges, but also reveals the behind-the-scenes of the human experience, showing us how seemingly small decisions can have profound impacts, how the mindset with which we approach each obstacle directly influences the course of our lives, and how constant reflection on our actions creates an effect of continuous transformation. These stories also invite us to reflect on our own journey. On the moments when we feel fear, doubt, or regret, how many times do we fail to act out of insecurity or because of what others might think? How many opportunities do we miss without realizing that each decision has the potential to generate growth, learning, and a deeper connection with what truly matters? By following the experiences of Clara, Antonio, Julia, and Ricardo, we begin to realize that Emmanuel's spirituality acts as a lens that broadens our self-perception, showing that life is made of choices that can be conscious and transformative when aligned with our essence, our hidden truth, and the greater purpose each of us carries within. Every detail of these narratives leads us to reflect on impact, responsibility, and awareness. The pain and fears of each character aren't there to paralyze us, but to teach us that overcoming, learning, and transformation are always possible, even when everything seems complicated. The way Emmanuel articulates his messages offers us a unique opportunity to understand that we are not isolated in our challenges, that human experiences repeat themselves in patterns that can be studied and understood, and that true growth happens when we can see beyond the surface and apply these lessons to our daily lives, in the way we deal with people, decisions, and feelings. It's fascinating to realize that these four stories, though distinct, share an invisible thread: the ability to inspire courage, empathy, forgiveness, and deep reflection. Each narrative reveals an aspect of the human mind and soul, inviting us to revisit our own experiences from a new perspective. And as we absorb these lessons, we begin to understand that the transformation Emmanuel proposes is not only spiritual, but also practical, directly influencing the way we think, feel, and act. Now I want to delve even deeper into this topic, because as we reflect on these four stories, we have the opportunity to examine our own decisions, our fears, and our relationships with a more attentive and conscious eye. Each psychographed message leads us to question old patterns, limiting mindsets, and choices we repeat without realizing it. It's an invitation to explore the behind the scenes of our actions, to see the impact of each gesture and each word, and to recognize that, like the characters in these stories, we too can embark on paths of learning, courage, and continuous transformation. And as you think about all this, I want you to take a moment to connect with yourself and leave a comment that reflects this reflection. Comment, "That makes sense to me." Have you ever felt that feeling that some experiences, no matter how simple or common they seem, carry a profound meaning that goes far beyond what we can perceive at first glance? It's as if, suddenly, in everyday detail, a conversation or even a silence reveals a hidden truth, something that connects past, present, and future in an invisible but incredibly impactful thread. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because it is at this point that we begin to see the transformative power of the last three stories, Psychographed by Emmanuel, which carry an emotional intensity capable of touching the soul and generating reflections that apply directly to our lives. The fifth story introduces us to Helena, a woman who lived with the weight of guilt and regret, carrying wounds that seemed impossible to heal. Every step she took, every decision she made, was influenced by this silent weight, making her life more arduous and limiting her potential for happiness. Emmanuel, through the words Psychographed by Chico Xavier, conveyed a clear message about the importance of looking at oneself with compassion, of realizing that forgiveness, before being granted to others, must happen within ourselves. It's fascinating to note how this teaching isn't limited to the spiritual, but applies directly to everyday life. How often do we sabotage ourselves by carrying guilt that doesn't belong to us, or by judging ourselves excessively? Helena's story invites us to understand that transformation begins when we allow ourselves to recognize our own humanity, with both mistakes and successes, and act from this awareness, with lightness and responsibility. Next, we meet Raphael, whose life seemed a constant conflict between family obligations and personal desires. He felt trapped, trying to reconcile external expectations with his own needs, and often felt that any choice he made would be wrong. Emmanuel's messages reveal that true harmony arises neither from submission nor imposition, but from the balance between empathy and authenticity. Have you ever felt like you had to choose between pleasing others and honoring your own truth? Raphael teaches us that applying this lesson to our daily lives means carefully observing our decisions, weighing the consequences of each action, but also trusting our intuition and our ability to act with love and integrity. It's an invitation to develop a more conscious mindset, capable of transforming internal conflicts into opportunities for learning and growth. The seventh and final story is about Sophia, a young woman marked by insecurities and fear in the face of challenges that seemed greater than her own strength. Each obstacle seemed an insurmountable barrier, and she often felt paralyzed, unable to move forward. Emmanuel conveyed messages of resilience, courage, and faith, showing that fear is not a sign of weakness, but an opportunity to strengthen one's resolve. And you, how many times have you felt incapable of facing situations that required courage? Sophia's experience reminds us that true transformation does not come from the absence of difficulties, but from how we choose to face them, from the awareness that each challenge is a step on our journey, and that spirituality, when understood and applied, acts as a silent guide, offering clarity, confidence, and direction even in the most uncertain moments. As we examine these three stories, a fascinating pattern begins to emerge. Each narrative, though unique in its details, shares central lessons about courage, forgiveness, empathy, and the importance of conscious decisions. It's as if Emmanuel were showing us through different avenues. Life is made of choices, and that the impact of each action goes far beyond what we perceive at first glance. The beauty of these stories lies in the way they connect spiritual aspects with practical, everyday issues, demonstrating that evolution, learning, and transformation are not abstract concepts, but realities that can be experienced in every moment. in our relationships, attitudes, and mindset. Furthermore, these stories reveal moving glimpses into the human experience, fears, doubts, regrets, but also hope, courage, and moments of epiphany that profoundly transform each character's perception. They invite us to reflect on how every choice, no matter how simple it may seem, carries the potential to impact our lives and the lives of those around us. It's an invitation to develop awareness of our actions, to notice recurring patterns and to apply these lessons in practical ways, whether by cultivating empathy, forgiving old wounds, facing fears, or acting with integrity even when no one is looking. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this topic, because these stories aren't limited to what happened to Helena, Raphael, and Sophia. They connect with our own reality, making us realize that each of us has similar challenges, moments of doubt, fears, and opportunities for transformation hidden in seemingly mundane situations. It's an invitation to reflect on our own journey, to identify where we can act with more courage, empathy, and awareness, and to understand that Emmanuel's spirituality works like a map, showing paths that can lead to a more balanced, meaningful life, aligned with our essence. And as you process these reflections, I want you to leave a comment that resonates with your experience or feelings right now. Right, I'm on this journey too, as we continue to reflect on these stories. It's impossible not to notice how each of them, despite being psychographed decades ago, remains surprisingly current and relevant to modern life. Helena, Raphael, Sophia, as well as Clara, Antonio, Julia, and Ricardo, all carried experiences that reflect universal dilemmas, difficult choices, fear, guilt, loneliness, a desire for change, external pressure, and, even with different contexts, the teachings Emmanuel conveyed remain intact because they speak directly to the human essence, showing that life's journey is made of challenges, learning, and opportunities for transformation. It's fascinating to think that these messages have transcended time, reaching us with impressive clarity, revealing not only the depth of spirituality, but also the practical intelligence of those who understand the inner workings of the human experience. As we observe each narrative, we see that Emmanuel did not simply recount events or convey empty words. He offers us a map to better understand our own lives. Each dilemma faced by the characters acts as a mirror, reflecting decisions we all need to make, dealing with fears that seem greater than our strength, forgiving old wounds that hold us back, acting courageously even when uncertainty frightens us, and developing a mindset of responsibility for our choices and consequences. This clarity of purpose is a hallmark of Emmanuel's message and the partnership with Chico Xavier, whose authority and dedication to psychography create a secure bridge between the spiritual world and our everyday reality, reinforcing the confidence that these stories are trustworthy and valuable. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this topic, because if we look closely, we realize that patterns repeat themselves. Each story reinforces concepts of transformation, resilience, and awareness, showing that the impact of our decisions goes far beyond what we can immediately perceive. It's as if Emmanuel were inviting us to observe our own journey with a more attentive eye, to analyze every gesture, every word, every choice, and to realize that even the simplest challenges have the potential to reveal hidden truths about ourselves. Spirituality, when understood this way, is not just theory. It is practice, a tool for self-knowledge, a guide that helps align mind, heart, and actions. The relevance of these stories today is striking, because they remind us that, despite all the technology, the fast pace, and the complexity of modern life, we still grapple with fundamental human issues: fear, doubt, guilt, love, courage, and empathy. Each psychographed message allows us to reflect on our own journey, realize where we can grow, recognize limiting patterns, and make room for meaningful change. It's an invitation to develop a more conscious mindset, one in which our decisions aren't just automatic reactions, but choices aligned with our deepest values and the purpose of evolving as human beings. And as we connect these stories, we see how the teachings are repeated in different contexts, reinforcing the idea that certain spiritual truths are universal and applicable in any era. It's impossible not to be touched by this constancy, by this practical and accessible wisdom, which inspires us to act with more compassion, to reflect on our attitudes, and to cultivate the courage to face life's challenges with serenity and confidence. Emmanuel, through psychography and with the support of Chico Xavier, shows us that spirituality is not distant, abstract, or inaccessible. It is present in every choice, in every relationship, in every moment of reflection, offering valuable insights for personal transformation. As we reflect on these stories, we inevitably begin to analyze our own experiences. What decisions paralyzed us? Where could we have acted with more empathy? What fears still limit us? The power of these narratives lies precisely in this mirror effect, allowing each of us to identify points of personal transformation, understand impacts, and find paths to evolve, strengthening not only the mind, but also the heart. It's an exercise in awareness that extends to practical life, demonstrating that the wisdom imparted by Emmanuel is alive, applicable, and profoundly useful for dealing with contemporary challenges. These stories, therefore, are not just accounts of the past. They are invitations to reflect, act, and connect deeply with our own essence. They remind us that every choice matters, that the courage to act and forgive generates real and lasting impact, and that spirituality is a powerful ally in building a more balanced, meaningful, and fulfilling life. What Emmanuel and Chico Xavier show us through these messages is that transformation is not a distant or abstract concept, but a concrete experience that we can experience every day as we exercise awareness, compassion, and courage. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this topic, because realizing the continuity of these teachings in our lives is to realize how we are connected to something greater, how our choices reflect not only on ourselves, but also on the world around us. It's an opportunity to peer behind the scenes of our own mind, understand the impact of decisions, and reflect on how we can apply these lessons in a practical way, changing old patterns, adopting a growth mindset, and allowing each action to align with what is truly meaningful. It's an invitation to explore the depths of human experience, understanding that every challenge is also an opportunity for transformation, and that Emmanuel's spirituality remains as relevant today as when these messages were, because it addresses what is essential: life, love, courage, and consciousness. And as you absorb these reflections, I want you to record in the comments a word or phrase that sums up what most touched your soul or symbolizes the impact these stories are having on you. Comment that resonates with me, and if you've made it this far, congratulations, because it means you've allowed yourself to truly immerse yourself in these stories and the reflections they bring. Now, if you felt any connection, if these messages from Emmanuel touched your soul or awakened thoughts you might not have considered before, I invite you to subscribe to the channel. The idea here is to bring you more content like this, which combines spirituality, reflection, and practical learning for today's life, so we can walk together on this journey of self-discovery and transformation, and take the opportunity to leave a comment, letting me know you made it to the end, right? For example, I'm with you until the end, or this message was for me. It's incredible to see who's truly following along, and your participation makes all the difference. It not only motivates me to bring you more quality content, but it also strengthens this community of people seeking to grow, reflect, and connect with something bigger. If this video brought you any insight or touched your heart, please leave a like note as an obligation. But as a natural gesture of recognition for what we've shared together and for the connection we've created throughout the content, it's a way to seal this experience and show that you're present in this exchange of energy, reflection, and learning. And if you'd like to delve deeper into these ideas, there's a video here that complements this topic, full of reflections and stories that follow the same line, bringing even more revelations about choices, consciousness, and personal transformation. Click and stay with me there, because the journey doesn't end here. And each step we take together on this journey helps us see the world and ourselves more clearly, more lightly, and more meaningfully.